Welcome to Speak for Yourself. Without Marcellus Wiley, I'm Emmanuel Acho. But listen closely, because I'm going to tell you the most startling thing you'll probably hear all day. Generational quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, probably the best quarterback prospect we've evaluated in the last 20 years coming out of college. More likely to fail in the NFL than succeed. Now, why? It's not Trevor Lawrence's fault, and it's not necessarily my opinion, but I've realized that in life and in football, it's not your talent alone that dictates your success, but rather the environment that you're in. Let's talk Bill Gates, maybe one of the wealthiest, not maybe, one of the wealthiest people our world has ever seen. Well, Bill Gates grew up in Seattle, and in 7th grade, his father, a wealthy lawyer, moved him from a public school to a private school. By his 2nd year at this private school, there was a computer club that was started. Now, because this computer club was started by the mothers of the school, because they had enough money to start this computer club, by 8th grade, Bill Gates was proficient in computer programming in 1968, a time where several college campuses didn't even have computers. Imagine if Bill Gates didn't grow up in that environment. Would we have ever seen his talent maximized? So why will Trevor Lawrence fail? Well, because I look at those who have come before him, and stats show that #1 overall picks at quarterback more likely to fail than succeed. Y'all look at it. When I talk about success for a #1 pick, a player that's supposed to come in and change the totality of a franchise, success to me has to be at least 4 Pro Bowls or going to a Super Bowl. So when you talk about the success stories, Jared Goff succeeded. Now, he's succeeded enough that his team just traded him, but at least he went to a Super Bowl. Andrew Luck, Cam Newton, Mike Vick, you see it. Multiple Pro Bowls or All-Pros or NFL MVPs. Now, when you talk about some of the failures, Jameis, we don't have to waste much time there, because in the here and now, you would say his success, his career was a failure. Matthew Stafford, yes, he has a great arm, but 0-0 in the playoffs. He ain't won nothing. Now, he's been a few times, but he ain't won nothing. You can look at the rest of the names on the list. Jamarcus Russell, Carson Palmer, Alex Smith. The fact of the matter is this. It doesn't necessarily matter how talented you are, because Carson Palmer, he won a Heisman. Jameis Winston, he won a Heisman. Sam Bradford, he won a Heisman. All these dudes were incredibly talented out of college, but the environments they went to, it didn't cultivate their talent. So when I think about Trevor Lawrence, a generational talent, I wonder, is he more likely to succeed or fail at the next level? I can't answer that best, but I know someone who can. How about Heisman winner, Matt Leinart, my guy? So, Matt.
What's up, man?
It's good to see you, brother. It's good to see you. Trevor Lawrence, more likely to succeed or fail in the NFL?
Well, gosh, I mean, with the expectation that you have getting to a Super Bowl or multiple Pro Bowls, I don't know if any of these quarterbacks are going to succeed, but look, you're absolutely right. It all depends on the environment, the culture, the organization that you go to, because as you said, every single one of those guys on that list had maybe not generational talent, but had extreme talent, could play the position as well as anybody in the country. The thing for me with Trevor Lawrence, and the reason why I believe he will be a successful quarterback and helping turning around the Jaguars franchise, is a couple of reasons. One is just, it feels like he was built for this. If I just go back to his Clemson days as a true freshman, he gets the nod. He leads them to a national championship over Nick Saban in Alabama. A lot of people thought he was ready to come into the draft after his true freshman year and would have been the #1 pick. That's high expectation. That's a lot of pressure on that kid. All that kid did was get to multiple playoffs, national championship games, and become a great leader. And I know you'll appreciate this, Ach, is the on the field talent is there. And I could say up here, well, he's going to be a great quarterback because he's really talented. Yeah, well, he is really talented, but that doesn't always equal success. His leadership qualities and his ability, not only on the field, but off the field. You talk about this past season with the social injustices, the player movement, the fight to get the players back into play college football. He spearheaded a lot of those movements as a 20-year-old kid. This kid, he gets it. He understands what it takes. And if I'm picking a player to be the face of a franchise for the next 10 to 15 years, is Trevor Lawrence. And the last thing I would say is Urban Meyer's the head coach. I got to know Urban very well the last couple of years. I consider him a very close friend. I really examined and studied what makes him tick and what made him so special and how he brought that to our big noon kickoff show. There is one thing that I'll tell you right now is that dude, that coach is one of the most competitive people I've ever been around. And I know he's new in the NFL. And again, we don't know if he's going to be a successful coach in the NFL, but I promise you this, he will create an environment that will allow Trevor Lawrence to be successful. I know that. I know that for a fact. He's done that everywhere. He did it at the collegiate level. He's going to do that at the NFL level with the assets they have, the salary cap, the good young core pieces that they have, they can build around. Again, it's an opinion, and again, statistics, historically, traditionally, more times than not, these number one picks fail. I just don't think that's the case with Trevor Lawrence. I think he's a special player. He's a special leader. And I believe he will get the Jaguars back to relevance and get them to multiple playoff appearances.
Appreciate that, Matt. Stay right there. Coming back to you shortly. But Bucky, joined by NFL analyst Bucky Brooks, you answer me this. Is Trevor Lawrence more likely to succeed or fail in the NFL?
Oh, he is absolutely going to succeed. And he's going to succeed because Matt really outlined the reasons that I believe he's going to be successful. It's not about the talent, because the talent is extraordinary. We've seen guys that have come in, been five-star recruits, have all the tools that you want. But this is about his leadership ability. Matt alluded to the last offseason when he took the lead at Clemson and got college football back to playing. And then we think about the social injustice and the things that he did for his teammates. At the end of the day, the quarterback position is a leadership position. It is one where your quarterback is supposed to give everybody else in the organization hope. When you think about Trevor Lawrence and all the things that he was able to do at Clemson, when he stepped on the field, the optimism sprung because people knew that our quarterback would figure out a way to get it done. And I think in Jacksonville, that has never happened. They've never had an A-level quarterback to step in like that. And when you marry him with Urban Meyer, someone who has a track record for getting it done, that's when the success happens. I think the organization will make it right.
Well, Bucky, I gotta respond to you as I also respond to Matt, because, fellas, let's just talk about these number one overall picks at QB. Again, if y'all are just tuning in, I'm discounting Eli Manning. He forced himself out. I'm not talking about Kyler. I'm not talking about Burrow. They're the last two quarterbacks. Alex Smith had to go elsewhere. Jamarcus Russell retired quickly. Andrew Luck retired early. Carson Palmer had to go elsewhere. Matthew Stafford, he's now gone elsewhere. Jared Goff had to go elsewhere. Jameis Winston, he's gone elsewhere. The list goes on and on. Michael Vick, he's gone elsewhere. Literally every quarterback except the last three, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, and Andrew Luck, because he retired, they all had to go elsewhere to truly find their maximal success. Alex Smith went to an NFC Championship game in San Francisco with the 49ers, but, let's be real. It was his days in Kansas City when they were winning 12 when he got there before being replaced by Patrick Mahomes, where we finally said, you know what, Alex Smith, maybe we've seen more good than we've seen bad. Talk about Carson Palmer. He completely revitalized the Bengals from being nothingness to winning 11 games. But remember, it's really what he did with Bruce Arians and the Arizona Cardinals when they went to an NFC Championship game, I believe, against the Carolina Panthers, where we said, you know what, Carson Palmer, we've forgotten about all the bad and even that little stint in Oakland. And we're like, yo, you were really a very, very competent quarterback. So if I'm telling y'all, all these former number one picks, Leinert, that they honestly had to go elsewhere to get their success. Let me also tell you, Matt, that the last 3 years, the Jaguars have had the worst record in the NFL. 9 of their last 10 years, they've had at least 10 losses. How can you be so convinced that Trevor Lawrence, with limited help as it stands right now, will find a way to turn that Jaguars organization around?
Well, listen, they were in the playoffs not too long ago with Blake Bortles, a handful of seasons ago with that defense. And again, it's, these teams are cycles. And I firmly believe in what Trevor Lawrence can do. And Bucky both talked about the leadership and the persona and the personality that he has. Guys are going to follow. That city is going to follow. The ownership, the general manager, all of those guys. And look, this is my opinion. I was around Urban Meyer. I believe coach is anything he touches turns to gold. And the NFL is, and I told him before he made those decisions to be a head coach in the NFL, hey, it's a different beast up there. This isn't college. This is the NFL. It's a business. These are grown men. But coach is a special guy now, and he gets it. And I know he did his diligence, his research on building a staff and the organization and what does it take to build. And he will stop at nothing to build a winning organization in Jacksonville. That's going to be his signal caller right there, that he believes is going to lead this team back to a playoff, maybe even a Super Bowl. But Acho, just a few years ago, they were in the playoffs. So, this team, look, they're a really young roster. They got a lot of, they got tons of draft picks for the next couple of years. If they can make some right decisions here up top, from the ownership to the general manager to Coach Meyer, this is a team, especially in that division, with what do we know what's going to happen with Deshaun and Houston. Obviously, Tennessee's a good football team, solid team. The Colts just made a big trade. So, who knows? But I'm a firm believer in Trevor Lawrence's talent on and off the field, his leadership ability, his ability to rally a team, rally a city. Just like we said, he rallied a whole country of college football players to get back on the field. The kid's special. Urban Meyer is special. And it might take a couple of years. It takes a couple of years to build a franchise, but there's no reason why I don't think they can do that.
Matt, you led me to another question, and I can't wait to get your take on this follow-up. But first, I got to ask you, Bucky Brooks, what's more important then? Is it the quarterback or the organization? Here's why I present this. Because, Matt, as you were talking, it made me think about this clear matter that by any statistical metric, Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning, who entered the draft in the same year. Matt, I'm sure you know both of those players' game incredibly well, if you don't know both individuals incredibly well. By any statistical metric individually, Phillip Rivers is a better quarterback than Eli Manning. Higher completion percentage the course of his career. More touchdowns, significantly more touchdowns the course of his career. A better winning percentage throughout the course of his career, and still less interceptions while throwing for more touchdowns throughout the course of his career. So any individual statistical metric, Phillip Rivers is a better quarterback. Eli Manning forces a trade, goes to a Giants organization, a much more competent organization than a Chargers organization. Eli Manning, 2 Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowl MVPs. Phillip Rivers, a 5-7 playoff record. The furthest he ever got was an AFC championship game. So I'm led to believe that it really doesn't matter how good you are at quarterback if the organization can't get right. Bucky Brooks, what say you?
I say it's all about the organization, because what Matt will talk about, and as you throw up all those failing statistics of the quarterbacks that have been number 1 overall, you go to the worst team. Normally, the team that drafts number 1 overall is already dysfunctional by design, meaning a lack of talent, constant turnover at the head coaching position, maybe even turnover with the general manager. So you have all these things working against a quarterback. So it's a struggle to have success. That said, when I look at this situation as it relates to Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars, to build a championship team, it is a people business, meaning it's about 2 things: trust and commitment. Are you committed to being the best that you can be individually? And then is this team committed to being the best that they can be collectively? And can you trust that everyone is going to pull the boat in the right direction? When I think about Trevor Lawrence and everything that you hear people talk about him, first one in, last one out, natural leader, has always been the guy that was hailed as the number 1 quarterback prospect throughout the recruiting ranks, going into college, and he lived up to it. I think about Urban Meyer being able to orchestrate turnarounds. 1, Bowling Green, Utah, Florida, Ohio State. Regardless of making the jump from college to the pros, he has a blueprint for getting teams to play at a championship level. I believe with those factors, at some point, this organization is going to succeed because they have the right guys in the right spots.
Yeah, I totally agree, Bucky. And I think, first of all, organizations are I don't want to say far more important than the quarterback, but they are the most important thing because, from ownership, and really if you look at all the pillars, right, the owner, general manager, head coach, some head coach serve as a general manager as well, personnel department, staff, coaches, all of those things, you have to be in line. As you said, the trust, the commitment from an organizational standpoint to the very top to the very bottom. If an owner has a clear vision, a clear mission, an identity of what they want to do in the hiring process, then a lot of that culture, that environment breeds success. I played for a couple teams at that time that, I wouldn't say dysfunctional, but there wasn't great organization from the top to the bottom, and that showed up. And obviously I didn't personally play that well as a quarterback, but I've been around those types of environments. I would look at like the Cleveland Browns. You look at what Dorsey's done with the Cleveland Browns. You go back a couple of years ago, the Cleveland Browns are, for lack of a better phrase, the laughing stock. They're never going to win. They change quarterbacks every year. And look what they've done. And I know, Ach, you had Baker out there as a failure to your standard right now. But look what they've done around him. They've built a team around him that plays to his strengths with a good defense, a great run game, play action, all those stuff. And look at the success he had last year. And they beat the Steelers in the playoffs. And a lot of people may say, hey, they could be a potential Super Bowl contender in the years to come. And that's not a Hall of Fame level quarterback at this point. That's all about decision making, right? And building that environment and changing the culture in Cleveland. So it definitely starts at the top with the decision makers of building a team around these young quarterbacks, doing whatever it takes to breed success on the field, off the field. You know, the outliers, you know, you look at, you know, obviously Tom Brady going to Tampa. Tom Brady's the GOAT. You know, he went to that organization. They won a Super Bowl. But you look at the decisions they made, and then you look at the decisions they made this offseason to keep everybody intact. I mean, that's how you build championship teams. The Jacksonville's not there. It's going to take some time to get there. But I just believe that they have a head coach that has a vision, knows what it takes to be successful. And it doesn't matter if you're at the collegiate level or the professional level. So, look, I'm excited. I'm excited for the draft. I'm excited for all of these guys to see where they go and to see what Urban can do in Jacksonville.
Well, here's what we do know, that Trevor Lawrence has an abundance of potential when it comes to what he can do in the NFL. One of the best arms we've seen. He's incredibly cerebral. He can process information very quickly, and he can run as well. But if you look up the dictionary definition of potential or even potential energy, you come across a little phrase in its definition that talks about stresses within itself. And I know Trevor Lawrence this year is going to have a whole lot of stress trying to write that shit in Jacksonville. Coming up, let's talk about another quarterback who's been dealing with some stress of his own. Dak Prescott is leading the charge in Dallas. I'll tell you why I do not have the Cowboys winning the NFC East. But first, will Sam Darnold be in New York next season? Gonna tell you if the Jets should move on from their quarterback. Next, speak for yourself.
The Universal Championship triple threat has reshaped WrestleMania, and Edge is more dangerous than ever. But how will Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan retaliate? It's an all-new Friday Night SmackDown, live at 8 Eastern tomorrow night on Fox.
Let's head to the Big Apple. Quarterback for the Jets, Sam Darnold. He's a quarterback right now, but New York has the number 2 pick in the draft, and Darnold's name has been dropped in trade talks. A report says the trade market for Darnold is not very high, with 2 general managers saying they would trade a 3rd-round pick, while one said, quote, a late third is a little rich. Bucky Brooks, Matt Leinart, they're back with me. But, fellas, it might be time for the Jets to go ahead and bust a move. Now, I'm going to start a little relationally, because what life has taught me is even though you're not at fault from the wrong, even though you're not at fault of the damage, you might still be damaged. Say you're in a relationship, Bucky Brooks. Say you're in a relationship, Matt Leinart, and somebody does you wrong. You might not have committed the wrongdoing, but it doesn't necessarily mean you are immune from the damage of being done wrong. See, you're still going to be damaged goods, if you will, emotionally maybe, until you resolve those issues. That's how I feel about Sam Darnold and the Jets. I don't think Sam Darnold contributed to the wrong that has occurred as far as the Jets' record. His first year in New York, he has an offensive coordinator with 1 year of offensive coordinating experience, and it was 8 years prior in Jeremy Bates. His last 2 years with the Jets, a head coach in Adam Gase who just can't get right. And so when I look at Sam Darnold, I don't think that he contributed to the damage. However, I do believe that in New York with the Jets, Sam Darnold is still damaged. Matt Leinart. Now, you and Sam Darnold, y'all got that whole USC connection. So tell me, why should the Jets move on from Sam Darnold?
Well, first of all, I don't think they should move on. That's my opinion. I think they will move on, but my opinion thinks that he should get another shot for the reasons you said, Ach. And look, I know firsthand, you know, when you're one of the top picks in the draft, you go to a place, you need to have a supporting cast. They haven't had a 1,000-yard receiver since B. Marshall in 2015 and Eric Decker. They haven't had a Pro Bowl player from a skill position in the last 5 years. He's been sacked 30 or more times each of the last 3 seasons. Now, I don't want to make up every excuse and justify why Sam Darnold should be the guy and is the best quarterback, because he obviously has his issues and he has to play better football as well. But you just mentioned the coaching and Adam Gase. And You look at what Gase did with Tannehill in Miami, and Tannehill has always been a pretty good player, but no playoffs. He goes to Tennessee for 2 years with great coaching in that system, 2 playoff appearances, and playing at a Pro Bowl level. So coaching matters. And this is the biggest reason why. I know Robert Saleh from my days in Houston. Love this dude. I love this energy and passion. What you see is advertised. That's what it's going to be, the culture there. But also bringing over LaFleur as the offensive coordinator, who is a Shanahan disciple. I played in Shanahan's system under Gary Kubiak in Houston. We all know that it's a very quarterback-friendly system. Sam Darnold with the bootlegs and with that system and some of these pieces that they've already, they've picked up some guys in free agency. With that number 2 pick, you can go a variety of ways. You can trade back, you can get Kyle Pitts, you can go Jamar Chase, you can get Penei Sewell. You can do all of these things to help build around your young quarterback, who I personally still believe in. So, look, that's my opinion. I do. With all that being said, sometimes change is the best thing. And it appears that's what's going to happen, because we know the New York Jets are going to take a quarterback at number 2. I think we know that. But Sam Darnold is a good football player. Sam Darnold, to me, can be a starter in this league. Sometimes a fresh start is what everybody needs.
So, Bucky, we know that Sam Darnold is talented. Nobody's denying that. I'm not denying that. I agree with Matt. Great football player, can make great throws. We saw what he did, even games against the Niners, rolling one way, throwing across his body. We know all that. But, Bucky, we also know you love Justin Fields, rightfully so. Zach Wilson, incredibly talented young quarterback. So what should the Jets do with Sam Darnold?
They have to pull the plug on the Sam Darnold era. Through no fault of his own, we can say that the Jets need to reset. Sam Darnold was put in a bad situation, tough situation, lack of support around him, didn't necessarily have the pieces. We could question the coaching and all of that. But at the end of the day, when you look at the tape and you look at Sam Darnold, it is hard to make a case to continue to go forward with him because he hasn't really shown much. When you look at the numbers from 2020, he is down at the bottom of the league in every category that you can think of when it comes to being a quarterback. Passer rating, completion percentage, yards per attempt, yards per game, touchdowns. He's 32nd or lower. Like, it's hard to justify continuing on. And then when you think about the clock and the decision that has to be made in May, where they have to make a decision whether to pick up the 5th-year option, which is over $20 million per, how can you, in good faith, sit in this locker room and say, hey, Sam Darnold is a $20 million player when you haven't seen that on the field? We have seen the teams that are going to the Super Bowl are going primarily with a quarterback that is playing on the original terms of their rookie deal. It enables you to build out the rest of the team. And so if you're Joe Douglas, the New York Jets, even though you might love Sam Darnold based on how you saw him at USC, you have to keep this strictly business. You got to move on and find a new quarterback.
All right, Bucky, I hear you. But I got to get something off my chest because these conversations start to frustrate me, and I will tell you why. Rookie quarterbacks, Zach Wilson, look at him at BYU, 40 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, the only quarterback in college to throw for 40 or more touchdown passes, 5 or less interceptions. Oh, my gosh, Justin Fields, everything he did at Ohio State. Last year, 40 touchdowns and only 1 interception. Not last year, the year before last. Oh, my gosh, remember when Jameis Winston was coming out? Never seen anything like him. Marcus Mariota. But I start to kick back and say, rookie quarterbacks are overhyped. Like, let's be real. When I think about, yes, maybe you should move on from Sam Darnold. Y'all heard me. I said that I think that he is damaged in New York. That is my reasoning for moving on from Sam Darnold. But then I look at all the rookie quarterbacks and how so many of them fizzle out. Are rookie quarterbacks overhyped in the NFL?
I mean, they're a little overhyped just because this is what we do. We're getting ready for the draft. We got to create excitement. We're excited to see the new class, the new crop. You know, it's like being that upperclassman on campus and the new freshmen come through. And we're checking out and just seeing who's on campus. Like, that's somebody new I haven't seen before. Maybe not need to go over there and introduce myself. And so that's what these teams are beginning to do. They're introducing themselves to these young quarterbacks. And the game has changed. Even during Sam Darnold's time, the game has changed where we're seeing these rookie quarterbacks have success. Look at what Justin Herbert was able to do. It is just a different time. If you have an opportunity to take a talented quarterback and reset the clock, you have to do it for your organization.
Matt Leinart, you are one of the best college football analysts in the game. You watch these college quarterbacks on a week-in, week-out basis. You study them intricately. You know all the details. But at the same time, you know the reality of the situation. Are some of these rookie quarterbacks overhyped?
Yeah, I mean, I think. Look, we go back to what we just talked about as far as just obviously the talent, and then going to some of these organizations where they fizzle out because of a variety of reasons. But to Bucky's point, quarterbacks are at a premium, and you're seeing a lot of rookie quarterbacks have success. And Justin Herbert's a great example. And you've seen a lot of these young guys go into places and be like, wow. And the game has changed so much with really the way Patrick Mahomes has changed the game, the way he throws the football and the excitement that brings. And you look at these quarterbacks in this draft, and I'll tell you what, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know who's going to be great, who's not. Kellen Mond is a guy who I have as sleeper who might be extremely good at the next level. We don't know. But you look at Lawrence and you look at Wilson and Fields and Mac Jones, who's kind of just thrust on the radar, kind of a la Joe Burrow of a couple of years ago, or last year, excuse me. It's exciting. And look, these organizations, you want to hit on one of these guys because that changes the face of your franchise for the next 10 to 15 years. And that's the hope. So like Bucky said, I think, I'm not an NFL evaluator, but like Bucky said, that's is what we do. We analyze these young guys, and sometimes it's not fair, but that's our job. But I will tell you what, I'm more excited about this quarterback draft class than I've ever been, just because you have so much talent and different players, right? I mean, Zach Wilson has got that swag, and pro days are, you don't want to get too in love with pro days, but just the way he could throw the football, he's a really talented player. Justin Fields, who I covered for a couple of years, him being in the Big Ten, is a really special player. Mac Jones, to me, has a talent to play in the NFL. He's getting a lot of criticism right now. He's a special player. Trey Lance is a project, but wow. I mean, the skill set jumps off the tape. So it's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to the draft. I'm looking forward to see where these kids go.
Liner, do this for me, because I have you on this show. You are a much better quarterback mind than I am. Probably a much better overall mind than I am, but that's another conversation for another show. Bucky Brooks has already told me that he has Justin Fields over Zach Wilson. We kind of rated the quarterbacks yesterday. We can assume Trevor Lawrence is at number one. There's still Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, Trey Lance. One of these four quarterbacks will be a game changer and will likely change your franchise, fan that's currently watching this show. Matt Leinart, rank those quarterbacks in order for me. Trevor Lawrence is one, but give me 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Well, two for me is Justin Fields. I have him ahead of Zach Wilson. I even personally think the gap between Lawrence and Fields isn't that significant. A little bit of different players, but Justin Fields is a really special talent. And again, I say that because I was really up close and personal with him the last couple of years with us covering Ohio State in the Big Ten. And then 3, I'd have Zach Wilson. I'd had Mac Jones at 4, and I'd had Trey Lance at 5. And just briefly on each one of them, Trey Lance, to me, just a lot more unknowns, obviously, with where he played, only having the one game last year, only completing 50% of his throws. Again, I'm not the guy that's going to say, well, his stats are this, his stats are that, because you look at Josh Allen a couple of years ago from Wyoming, had the low completion percentage, and now he's an MVP-type player. But Mac Jones, to me, is a really good football player. Obviously, he's becoming a victim of the talent around him for what people are saying. I don't necessarily buy that as well. Zach Wilson is a very special athlete and special talent, but he did it against weaker competition this year. Again, not his fault, because with the schedule, they had to just put anybody on their schedule to get games because of COVID. But to me, Justin Fields is that second quarterback. And he proved that he could throw the football from the pocket, and his ability to run and make plays outside. And he did it at an extremely high level for the last 2 years. He's my second quarterback in this draft.
Matt, appreciate that. I know this much. One of these young quarterbacks are going to solidify quarterback positions for one of the teams they get drafted by. But speaking of a team that needs their quarterback position solidified, how about the New England Patriots? Because they say they got to get things under control at that QB position. I'll tell you how Cam Newton, who should be their starter, can earn his respect back. That's next on Speak for Yourself. Welcome back to Speak for Yourself. Cam Newton's first year in New England, it did not at all go as planned. But his boss said it's not all Cam's fault. Robert Kraft added, quote, one way or another, we have to get that position solidified. Now, what has become solidified, what has become apparent, is that Cam Newton has lost his respect, not just by fans, but by NFL organizations. Why do I know this? Because you can tell how much someone loves you and respects you in the NFL by how much they pay you. Last year, Cam Newton was the 49th highest paid quarterback, behind backup quarterbacks like Nathan Peterman, Colt McCoy, Matt Schaub. I didn't even know Matt Schaub was still in the league. And Cam Newton was getting paid less money than him. Well, now Cam Newton is getting paid fringe starter money. He's in conversations with the likes of Andy Dalton. Remember, the Bears are currently trying to replace Andy Dalton with Russell Wilson. He's in money conversations with the likes of Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor was going to Houston as an insurance policy to be a backup. So Cam Newton is still only making fringe starter money. Cam Newton has lost his respect. But he's lost his respect because since 2016, he has the third worst touchdown to interception ratio. He's lost his respect because people have looked up and said, wait, Cam, you've had 9 full years as a starter and you only got 3 winning seasons to show for it. He's lost his respect because last year he played 15 games and only passed for 8 touchdowns and had 10 interceptions. So now the question is, how in the world can Cam Newton get his respect back? Well, Bucky Brooks is back with me, but also joined by a two-time Super Bowl champion, my dog, my friend, Torrey Smith. Torrey, I'm going to you first because you played with Cam. You know Cam well. You caught passes from Cam back when he was balling. How can Cam Newton earn his respect back?
He just has to be himself. You know, we tend to forget these past few years. There's been a multitude of different things that have led to the situation that he's in right now. Cam was hurt, so that kept him from being on the field. And if you can go to as early as last year, Cam was signed right before camp, meaning he had 3 weeks to learn what is known around the league as one of the most complicated offenses and lead that offense and really go win a job. So the fact that he was able to win the job and understand the offense even a little bit was a win in itself. But for Cam Newton to be himself, he just simply has to be healthy and be comfortable. And with the full year in that offense, I'm expecting to see the real Cam Newton because, like you said, you alluded to those stats a little bit. It's been tough for Cam the past few years, but the reality of it is a healthy Cam Newton is arguably the best player in the NFL. And I watched him. I've talked to him. He's healthy. He's happy. He's comfortable in this system. And now they've added weapons to that toolbox. I'm looking forward to watching Cam bounce back and to be the better version of himself.
You know, that version that we will see of Cam Newton, I'm expecting to be better because that version last year, I know, Acho, you'll always talk about the passing numbers and those things. I thought a couple things were really important. Cam Newton got through the season relatively healthy and unscathed outside of the COVID situation, and Cam Newton scored 12 rushing touchdowns, a number that he hadn't seen since his rookie season. And so when I think about Cam Newton and the way the Patriots are rebuilding this team, we saw them be very aggressive in free agency. Their defense loading up on veterans who can play multiple positions so Bill Belichick can play the style of defense that they want to play. Then thinking about rebuilding this offensive line, Trent Brown coming back, being able to sign Andrews to retain the center, adding what they want to add in the draft, which will continue to build a power running game. The New England Patriots won 7 games last year, and folks, they weren't very good at all. And so if you can imagine them upgrading the talent, that pushes them to 10 or 11 range, and Cam doesn't have to be drastically different in terms of a passer. Cam gets his respect by the way that Acho judges quarterbacks. Wins, playoff wins, significant victories. The Patriots know how to win. Now it's about Cam just playing.
Well, Bucky, let's wrap real for a second then, because I think the common misconception is that Cam Newton has been a consistently good quarterback. Cam Newton is the antithesis of Dak Prescott, in my opinion. What do I mean? Dak Prescott has been consistently good since he entered the league. 13 wins, 9 wins, 10 wins, 8 wins, he gets hurt. Consistency, consistently good, and that's what's made him great. My Hall of Fame head coach in college, Mac Brown, he said, you have to be consistently good to be great. Cam Newton is not that. Cam Newton has very high highs, but he has very low lows. 6-10 rookie year, then 7-9, then 12-4, then 5-8-1. But then 15-1 Super Bowl appearance, then 6-8, but then 11-5, but then 6-8, but then 7-8. Cam Newton has never been consistently good. Cam Newton only has 3 winning seasons, but he won an MVP, Bucky, and that kind of gave us grace over his multitude of sins. I love Cam Newton. This is not a Cam Newton bashing session.
I get that.
Cam Newton is one of my favorite players in the league. I'm using facts during what can be a feeling conversation. That's what I'm trying to do here. So, Bucky, the fact of the matter is, where is your hope coming from when you talk about Cam Newton can be great? Because you haven't seen Cam Newton be great since 2017 at best, or if you're being hypercritical, 2015.
You know, I know we like to think about the National Football League being one that is player-driven, and it is to a certain degree. But to win at a high level, you have to have coaching. I think what we're seeing in New England, he will get his best coaching of his career. Because as you put all those wins and the inconsistency on Cam, I think you can put it on the coaching staff and the organization that he left with the Carolina Panthers. Well, now with the Patriots, we know the Patriots have been a model of consistency. And as you said, Coach Brown talks about before you can be great, you have to be consistently good. Well, the one thing we know about the Patriots, they understand that part of it. And so with Cam Newton having a full offseason to master the nuances of the playbook, Josh McDaniels and Bill Belichick having a full offseason to study the tape, to see where Cam Newton really, where his strengths are and where his weaknesses are, to now rebuild the offense to put him in a situation where he can be great by minimizing the opportunities for him to play to his weaknesses.
Tori, I got to talk to you. I'm going to talk to you, the football analyst. I'm not talking to you as a friend of Cam Newton that got him on speed dial. That's not who I'm talking to right now. I need you to separate your dual personalities and let me just speak to the football analyst. You watched Cam Newton play last year. You saw 8 passing touchdowns, 10 interceptions. You watched Cam Newton play last year. You saw the Patriots lose 4 games by a touchdown or less. 3 of those games, Cam Newton contributed to that loss in a major way. Buffalo Bills, he fumbles going in. The Patriots lose by 3. Denver Broncos, Cam Newton can't string together 2 drives after his defense gets him 2 interceptions. The Patriots lose by 6. San Francisco 49ers, Cam Newton throws 3 interceptions in the first 3 quarters, gets benched. The Patriots get blown out. Tori, do you believe that Cam Newton is still a starting quarterback in the NFL right here, right now?
Absolutely. You know, the best version of Cam Newton, again, he's proven he's been the best player in the NFL before. And we don't have to look any further than the Super Bowl. We've learned and we know that as a player and at the quarterback position, it doesn't matter how talented you are, your environment matters. We saw how the best player in the league right now, Patrick Mahomes, looked when he wasn't protected, when he was running and when his offense was out of sync. And that's what it looked like all year last year for Cam Newton. And they've added more tools to the toolbox this year with Nelson Aguilar, Hunter Henry. And you're looking at him, and I think of Cam, I think about him when he was his best. He had Greg Olsen there. He had that safety blanket. That safety blanket wasn't there last year. So, yes, Cam Newton is a starter. He's healthy, and I'm looking forward to watching what he can do this year.
Okay, Tori, I got to wrap with you for a second. I just went one-on-one with Bucky Brooks. I think he beat me to the cup. But now I'm going to wrap with you, Tori, for a second. You said that Cam Newton is a starter, but he needs help. You played on the Philadelphia Eagles with a man by the name of Carson Wentz. He threw for 4,000 yards, albeit the year after you left, I believe. But he threw for 4,000 yards with no receiver gaining 500 yards. Bucky, or at least one of Bucky's colleagues, has said one of the most profound phrases I've ever heard in regards to a quarterback. You're either a tractor, meaning you are pulling your team, or you are a trailer, meaning you are getting pulled by your team at the quarterback position. So then where do you currently put this Cam Newton? Not 2015 Cam Newton. This Cam Newton, is he a tractor? Is he pulling the team? Or is he a trailer getting pulled by his team?
I think he's a tractor that's going steady. You know, he's been carrying his team for so long, and he was forced to do that. Think about that year when he was the MVP. Right now, well, you played, so it's a little bit different, but there were no Julio Jones at receiver. You had Jericho Cottrell, you had Ted Ginn, guys who were great players, excellent players, but it was more of a complementary role type in the offense. But Cam Newton was Superman, right? That's where we got the Cam Newton Superman mantra from, him being bigger than himself and carrying everyone with him. Now, at this stage of his career, he doesn't have to be Superman. He could just be Cam Newton. And you put him in a Bill Belichick system to have the ability and the weapons around him and the coaching, like Bucky mentioned. Listen, the sky could be the limit for him. Last year was tough. It was tough for everyone. I'm glad that we were able to get ball and to watch some high-quality ball being played. But understanding that Patriots offense and Cam Newton only having a few weeks to learn it, I wasn't expecting him to be a star. I thought he was going to be a little bit better than he went last year, but I didn't know they were going to have that many holes either. It wasn't that visible. So now there's no excuse. If we can have this conversation a year from now, I'm going to be smiling because I know Cam Newton's going to be back to himself.
Everybody needs a friend like Torrey Smith. Bucky Brooks, I got to ask you the same thing because, Bucky, I literally heard this. Either you said it or it was in dialogue with you. The phrase blew my mind. Either you or Daniel Jeremiah. I'm sure you will correct me as far as being a tractor as a quarterback or a trailer. Where do you put Cam Newton? Is he pulling a team forward or does he need so much help that he is being pulled forward?
Oh, he needs a team to pull him forward. He's no longer the guy that once carried the Carolina Panthers, and he did it for almost a decade. I think now, as the quarterback gets older, they need more pieces around him to do more. So when you think about Drew Brees, and look, Cam is not near the age where Drew Brees was, but he needed the support of the team to be able to play at a high level. Even your guy, the GOAT, Tom Brady, he joins a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. Why? Because he didn't have the support in New England to play at the high level. So now when he doesn't have his A game, he can lean on the defense. Or if he's not necessarily been able to push it down the field, he can throw to Mike Evans or Chris Godwin or Rob Gronkowski and others. And so where Cam Newton is at this stage of his career, he certainly needs the support team to be able to do it. That said, you still can win. And if he does win, he gets all the credit. They need to step up collectively for this to get right in New England.
Cam Newton, I need you to win so I can come on here and sing your praises because having to be critical of Cam Newton is like having to eat asparagus for your boy. I just don't like it. Now, Torrey, Cam may not have to be Superman, but they're not going to win if he's Clark Kent. I'll tell you that much. Coming up, the Seahawks are staying busy this offseason, but I'm going to tell you if Russell Wilson should believe in Seattle. That's next on Speak for Yourself. Let's head to Seattle. Talk about the Seahawks, where, it could be slowing down the Russell Wilson trade rumors with their moves this offseason. They gave Tyler Lockett, the stud wide receiver, a 4-year extension for just over $69 million. This follows re-signing the running back Chris Carson, adding tight end Gerald Everett, and offensive lineman Gabe Jackson. Now, I get it. The Seahawks are spending a lot of money, but to me, it's kind of all for naught. It's kind of like the dude that goes to the club and spends all the money on a section but still leaves without a number because it's become abundantly clear the Seahawks no longer know how to win in the postseason. I'm not talking about these regular season wins. Obviously, the Seahawks can do that. They can do that better than really any other teams in the National Football League. But in the postseason, last 5 playoff appearances, the Seahawks are 1-4. Keep in mind, that one win they got, it was over the Philadelphia Eagles because Carson Wentz got knocked out of the game by a cheap shot, particularly a cheap shot if you're an Eagles fan. So I get it. They're giving Russell Wilson weapons. I get it. They're giving Russell Wilson receivers. I get it. They're letting Russell Wilson cook. But the fact of the matter is, it's kind of like things started to change over generations when parents started to become friends instead of parents. The Seahawks might be friendly to Russell Wilson, but they're not necessarily doing what's in his best interest as it comes to postseason wins. I don't necessarily believe in the Seahawks, but I got to bring in Bucky Brooks and my guy, Super Bowl champ, Torrey Smith, because, Bucky, I'm going to ask you first, why should Russell Wilson believe in the Seahawks?
I mean, I don't want to take over the segment, but I would say if I'm the Seahawks, why should the Seahawks believe in Russell Wilson?
Oh.
Because Russell Wilson has changed the game. Russell Wilson is now Hollywood, and he has changed how the Seattle Seahawks go about their business. Because when Russell Wilson was the friendly Russ that said, "Go Hawks" at the end of every interview, it was about the team. It was about us, the we, all that. Now it's about me and how I want to go about doing it. And maybe the 12s have him gassed up, thinking that he needs to cook. But when we see him cook, I told you, Acho, he's burning the mills. And so if he's burning the mills, I got to close up the food truck. And so when I look at the Seattle Seahawks with Pete Carroll knows, hey, we have a recipe for winning that stood the test of time. We talk about Russell Wilson and all the wins that he's accumulated. It's because he's been a game manager on a team that is really a machine. Run game, defense, they do that, it works. Less of Russ is better. And so when I think about this offseason and Russ pointing the finger at his teammates, his offensive line, talking about he's getting hit too much, and all of these other things that he says he wants to do, my question would be to Pete Carroll. Are you sure you got the right guy? Ooh. Are you sure you got the right guy that can lead you to the promised land? Because this Russ right now, the one that's wearing the bally boots and the nice suits, That ain't the one that showed up from Wisconsin. That would be my question.
Okay, now look, Bucky Brooks, I got a script. What's the script? What's the script for his television? Because we going to go there. He went there, Torrey Smith. We going there. We here now. Torrey, let's talk Russell Wilson. Let's do it. Do you believe that Russell Wilson should be the guy in Seattle? I'm not talking about his talent. We get he's talented. But do you think that the Seahawks can win with Russell Wilson, knowing everything that comes with Russell Wilson's now ego?
Yeah, they can win with Russell Wilson. I mean, he's the top 5 quarterback in the NFL. That's not a question. Russ has all the control in this situation. Does Russ want to be there? Because as a player, and you alluded to it earlier, your love and your support is shown by what?
That money.
Your money. And Russell Wilson has been treated like a king all of these years when his time has come to get paid. Now, he sounds like a lot of people do, myself included, when you feel like you've been kicked down, you're abused, you're down. He's tired of getting hit. The man is tired of getting hit. Protect him. That's all he's asking for is a little bit of help. Because sometimes when we're in our feelings, our emotions, we don't really know how to communicate that the right way. We may be a little more passive aggressive, right? We might say things like, okay, I like this situation, but I wouldn't be mad if I could go to X, Y, and Z, right? I like living in Seattle, but I wouldn't be mad going to Dallas or Chicago. Passive aggressive things come out when your emotions aren't in check. And that's what we saw to Russell Wilson. But the reality of it is, if you protect him, this team can win right now.
Time out. Torrey Smith, you won not one but 2 Super Bowls. You did so with a straight-up pocket passer, and then you won the Super Bowl with the pocket passer, but you got to the Super Bowl with a quarterback who was running a lot at the time, a quarterback in Carson Wentz. You were there. You were in the game. Los Angeles Rams, I believe it was Los Angeles at the time, in L.A. Carson Wentz is scrambling, trying to dive, do a little too much to get a touchdown, and boom, there goes his knee, his MCL, his ACL, his LCL. He was trying to do too much. So is it Russell Wilson's fault that he's getting hit too much? Because Flacco never got hurt or never worried about getting hurt. But Carson Wentz, the other quarterback that helped lead you to a Super Bowl, did get hurt, and it wasn't on the offensive line. It was on Wentz. You played with 2 Super Bowl quarterbacks. You played with 2 Super Bowl teams. Is it Russell Wilson's fault he getting hit too much?
Yeah, I'll say this on behalf of all the linemen in America who may be watching this. A lot of those sacks are his fault. It's not all on the offensive line. So we have to be honest about that because Russ's style, right? What makes Russ great is his ability to extend plays. What hurts the team at times is his ability to extend plays because sometimes you trust it too much. But the reality of it is, again, you're talking about a top 5 quarterback, a guy who is the tractor that has been carrying this team and has that ability. This isn't the same team that when they had that Legion of Boom, they had that type of leadership where it was mixed. Russ, and I may even say his ego was a little bit smaller then. Now, he's the guy. And if it's going to be done his way, I feel like as a team, you have to just make sure he's protected. Russell Wilson is one of the best men that I've ever met, period. On the field, off the field, whatever. So if he's unhappy, there's something to be said for it. But he's also the right guy to fix the situation, which is why this offseason, I wasn't comfortable saying he's going to leave. He's a guy that this situation can be salvaged, and he can lead this team the right way.
Torrey, I'm going to get back to you in a second, but Bucky, here's what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to allow you to kick dust up and then just scurry off. Okay, you kicked up a lot of dust, and I'm not going to let you run off, so I got to bring you back into this conversation. If Pete Carroll and the Seahawks can't trust Russell Wilson, then what do you submit that the Seahawks should do if they want to get back to Super Bowl winning ways?
Okay, so here's what the Seattle Seahawks need to do. They need to understand what Russ is, and I think they do understand it. See, what has been lost, no one is listening to what Pete Carroll said at the end of the season. He said at the end of the season, I am tired of cover 2. Because at the end of the year, in the last 8 games, cover 2 deep safeties, hard cornering, jamming and rerouting DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and forcing Russ to play what? On schedule. Russ is not a on-schedule quarterback. And so what Pete Carroll has said, we need to run the football because what happens when we run the football? It drops the safety down in the box. Now Russ has clear lanes to throw on the outside to DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, who excel at the vertical part of the passing game. And so They are actually trying to help Russ by giving him a script. And so let's go to the offensive coordinator, because they brought in a new offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, coming from where? The L.A. Rams. The Rams run a version or a variation of what Kyle Shanahan does in San Francisco. Run game, exotic bootlegs and play action, big shots, easy reads and throws for the quarterback. What they're doing, they're trying to make the game easy for Russ. So Russ is saying, oh, I want more. And they're like, Russ, that's not for you. We do this, we set you up. And so it's a philosophical difference in how this should be approached. But the Seahawks want him. But Russ has to comply and understand who he is. And sometimes he can't see who he is because he's Hollywood Russ, not old Russ.
Hollywood Russ. Coming back to you, though, Tori, because I need you to give me one conclusive final thought. Russell Wilson, you said, is a top 5 quarterback. I agree with you on that. But he's a top 5 quarterback because he's allowed to show his abilities and be a top 5 quarterback. He's a top 5 quarterback because they've since opened up the playbook at around year 4 or 5 for Russell Wilson and allowed him to grow into being a top 5 quarterback. So if you are management for the Seahawks, would you let Russ cook, satisfy your quarterback, allow him to blossom, allow him to be just as talented as he has the potential to be? Or would you go back to the traditional ways that had early success? Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, Russ, throw the ball 20 to 25 times a game, and let's see if we can win humbly. Tori, your thoughts?
I think it's about balance because there's room for both, right? As a team, you want a team that's not relying on the passing game. You go out there, if Russ is forced to throw for over 5,000 yards a year, Seattle will not win the Super Bowl. You need that type of balance, whereas now, Russ, you're handing it off. There may be a game because they want to commit to the run, right? You want to eat up the clock. You want to control the game. You want to open things up for Russ on the back end because he throws the best deep ball in the league. And that's tough because I love Aaron Rodgers' deep passes like anyone else, but there's no one that throws a deep ball like Russell Wilson, and that all works when you're able to run the ball. The biggest thing is, again, protect them, and I feel like we wouldn't be in this situation because now it's not just about stats. He's complaining about being hit. So now if you say, okay, now, Russ, we're protecting you, if he complains again, then it's about, no, I do want the ball more. I do want this control. But the reality of it is you want to know that you have a guy like Russell Wilson that can go out there and win the game for you throwing the ball, but you don't want to be forced to throw the ball to win the game because we've seen what happens to teams that can only win and they have to rely on the passing game. You need that balance. That's not what made Seattle great just a few years ago. That balance is what's key, and they need to get back to that.
Success for the Seahawks. Success in life. It's all about balance. Coming up, Dak Prescott is leading the charge in Dallas, but I'll tell you why I ain't got the Cowboys near the top of the NFC East. That's next. Speak for yourself. You do not want to go anywhere. Welcome back to Speak for Yourself. Now, you'll quickly realize why this is about to be the toughest block of the day. This is going to be the toughest 5 minutes for me because I'm about to rank the NFC East. It's time for us to figure out who's the beast of the East. Now, remember, last year was much more like the NFC least because for the first time since 2014, the champion of the division had a losing record. But let's let bygones be bygones. Let's talk about the here and now. Let's talk about the future of the NFC East. Coming in as the 4th best team for this upcoming season, my Philadelphia Eagles. Now, y'all know I'm being honest when I rank my Eagles. The team I played for, the team that put money in my pocket, albeit not a lot of money in my pocket, but money in my pocket. You know it hurts my heart to rank them 4th, but at the end of the day, Jalen Hurts, he was 1-3 as a starter, 52% completion percentage. That's 12 percentage points behind league average. 77 passer rating. That's 16 points behind league average. Nick Sirianni, first-year head coach, he was nervous in a press conference, and they hadn't even played a game yet. Eagles finished 4th. Now, who's going to finish 3rd? Oh, this one hurts me, too, because area code on my phone number still reads 214. That means I'm from Dallas. Cowboys, that's my 3rd place finisher. Because, yes, they get Dak Prescott back. But the fact of the matter is, Dak was 1-3 as a starter. I say 1-3, not 2-3. Andy Dalton came in and finished that Giants game. Don't try to correct me. I know y'all at home. Now, you get Dak Prescott back, but they didn't make any changes this offseason. A defensive coordinator in Dan Quinn. But what's a great chef if you ain't got the right ingredients in play? I'm not sold on Mike McCarthy. He got a Super Bowl, but he has a future Hall of Fame quarterback in Aaron Rodgers who got him that Super Bowl. Cowboys finished 3rd. So who's going to finish 2nd? How about those New York football Giants? Now, Giants fans, I'm trying to earn your good graces early this year. Last year, y'all hated me. I said y'all were going to win 12 games in the season. Then I corrected myself, and I said, no, y'all are going to win 5 games. And y'all ended up winning roughly 6, if I'm not mistaken. Now, look, Giants, you got Daniel Jones going on year 3. I think he'll develop. Saquon Barkley will come back. You got some stud receivers. You got Kyle Rudolph to partner him and pair him with Evan Ingram at tight end. You still got Shepard out there in the slot at receiver. Daniel Jones, y'all are primed to succeed, but not succeed in first place, but still good enough for a second place finish in the East. So who wins? You already know it. Do deductive reasoning. It's Washington. Why Washington? Defense still wins championships in the NFL. Don't ask me. Go rewatch the Super Bowl. Who had the better defense in the game? It was the Bucs. Yes, you had Tom Brady, but it's all about the defense and the pass rush. So what does Washington have? What does Washington do best? Get after the passer. Chase Young, beast. Defensive Rookie of the Year. Montez Sweat, beast. Deron Payne, beast. They got a bunch of beasts up front. They were already the second best defense last year, and now they're getting even more veteran. I'm telling you right now, this is how the NFC is going to finish. But I got to go to the desk because Bucky Brooks, I got that perfectly right, correct? Like, I got it perfect. I know you have no possible correction.
I mean, I'm sitting here, and I think you have one correct. Like, you have the Eagles correct because the Eagles, right now, they don't have the firepower to be able to contend with the other teams in the division. Of course. You got Jalen Hurts, who's really struggling because he doesn't have anything around him. We'll see if they upgraded through the draft, new coach. That is difficult. But this love and adoration that you right now have for the New York Giants, I'm trying to figure out. Like, I'm hearing you talk about the Giants, and I had to go back and look because I had to pick up the phone. I was like, how many games did the Giants win? 6 games, and we're talking about them and Joe Judge and what they were able to do and how excited you are to see them and all this other stuff. And so, like, my mind was blown, but then, like, the emoji pops up, but then I had to put double emojis because then the Washington football team. And I like the Washington football team up front. Hey, Chase Young and Montez Sweat are hogs. Yeah. Those Alabama boys on the inside get it done. However, I'm looking at their quarterback situation, and I believe they got worse. And I know we have love on the streets for Ryan Fitzmagic because, I don't know, it's a nice story. Maybe it's the beard. I don't know, but he turns it over all the time. This team won games because Alex Smith didn't give it away to the other team. So are we convinced that Ryan Fitzpatrick is not going to give games away? Because my frustration will be, can they play the conservative style that they played last year where they leaned on the defense with Ryan Fitzpatrick? Does he have that in his toolbox? Does he have that club in his bag that he's like, hey, I'm just going to manage the game. I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to let the defense do it. I don't think he can resist the temptation to try and fit it into those tight windows. And so, Acho, I just think you misrepresented. And then the way you missed the mark with the Cowboys, I don't even want to talk about your disrespect for the Cowboys, a team with Dak Prescott that dominates the division when he starts games. And yet you just have those guys almost pulling up the rear. It's so disrespectful for a guy that is a Texan. I just can't understand this.
Look,
they're going to pull your card.
They're going to pull my Dallas card? They might. But look, be real, Bucky. I understand that the Cowboys, Dak Prescott, rather, dominates the division. 19-6 since he's entered the league in the division. But in order to win the division, you can't just win the divisional games. You also have to beat other people. Here's what I need you to explain to me, because Cowboys fans, remember, I don't dislike the Cowboys. I actually like the Cowboys. The better the Cowboys do, the better television does. Mm-hmm. So I like the Cowboys, and I like for them to win. However, we got to be real. Dak Prescott's last 37 games, he's 20-17. His last 3 seasons, rather. Mm-hmm. He's 20-17. Dak Prescott, they finished 8-8 2 years ago. He was 1-3 as a starter. If you want to be lenient and give him a curve, you can say that he was 2-3 as a starter. I get that you're getting Dak Prescott back, but I've said this before. Just because you get richer does not mean you get better. Dak Prescott got richer, but how do you foresee that the team that was 8-8, the same team that was 1-3 under Dak, is now all of a sudden going to be what? 10-7? Is going to be 11-6? Is going to be 12-5? Like, how do you foresee? First off, how awkward does that sound? 17 games, like 10-7. It came out weird.
It's fine.
But how do you foresee the Cowboys topping the division when they really haven't been that good?
Oh, but I mean, what is in the past is in the past. We're talking about right now. And what I like about this, and I mean, if we want to go through it, I look at your list, and I can't even look at it because it just makes me sick to my stomach to see the order that you have. I got to reshuffle the deck. So you got this one right with the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Philadelphia Eagles you have correct. So they're in the right hole at the 4 position. So I'm okay with that. The Giants have to come down because do you really believe Daniel Jones is that dude? Do you really believe when we get down the stretch and it's all about quarterback play in the postseason, and if we get it, that Daniel Jones is going to make those plays? Better yet, do you believe they have enough firepower on the outside to be able to do it? I know Kenny Golladay came over, but, I mean, you only played 5 games a year ago. And I think, as you said, getting richer doesn't necessarily make you better. Correct. So Golladay is paid, but I don't know if he really is ready to play at a high level. Then I think about the Washington football team. And the Washington football team goes to the playoffs. And I think maybe you're slightly influenced by the fact that they played close against the Super Bowl champions. And maybe you're giving them a boost because I'm looking at this team and I'm like, man, this team struggled scoring points a season ago. Yes, they bring over Curtis Samuel to go with my man Terry McLaurin, but I just don't see how they do this. And so to me, the clear choice in this, it's all about the Cowboys.
Go ahead. Finish the thought.
I mean, just think about just how much better offensively they're going to be. Tyron Smith comes back. Lil Collins comes back. Those guys didn't even play a season ago.
That's
Dak
true.
Prescott comes back. Zeke Elliott now will report in shape. And Amari Cooper. And then CeeDee Lamb. I'm just saying, just from an offensive standpoint, they're superior to every team in the division.
I don't disagree with you there at all. I think as far as offensive talent, I think the Cowboys have a top 3 offense when you talk about talent.
Yes.
When you look at the CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Pollard is a backup running back. Plus, I think they're getting Jarwin back, assuming he's healthy.
They do.
That's a beast of a lineup. How many games do you think the Cowboys win this year?
Oh, I told you. Didn't I tell you yesterday?
You did, but I tried to forget that nonsense. I thought it was an accident. I tell
you what, Cowboys fans, like, go to your local team store because the shirts will be in the team store. The NFC East division shirts will be there, and they're going to have 11 wins. 11 wins. 11 wins. Keanu Neal, DeMonte, like, they're ready. D-Law comes back and play. All of these guys were hurt. They were banged up.
11 wins. If I had that kind of confidence at the casino, I'd either be rich or I'd be broke. No in between. Coming up, did Robert Kraft just put pressure on Bill Belichick? Nah, that can't be. Might be. I'll answer that one next. Speak for yourself. Welcome back to Speak for Yourself. The Patriots, they opened up their wallet in a major way this offseason, dishing out an NFL record, $165 million in guaranteed money. Figure so big I couldn't pronounce it right. New England's owner, Robert Kraft, said he trusts Bill Belichick's ability to build the team, but he also pointed out the lack of production from draft picks caused the spending spree. Kraft said, we were in a unique cap situation this year, and it allowed us to try to fix things we missed to a certain extent in the draft. So this was our best opportunity. Now, Bucky Brooks is back with me. That's my guy. But you know who's also my guy? Well, literally, he has to be. He's my brother, former NFL linebacker Sam Acho. Now, fellas, I got to remind the world, because I've been thinking about this. Incredible love stories, they can flame out so quickly. Y'all remember Tom Cruise jumping on Oprah's couch to profess his love for Katie Holmes? Oh, he was so madly in love. Well, that didn't work out. Y'all remember Jerry Krause? The Bulls had won 6 chips in 8 years. Three-peat. But then 1998, after that chip, he was like, yeah, you know what? I'm good. Huh? Y'all remember the Lakers? 3-peat? They were rolling. Then the late, great Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, that flamed out. But let me bring this close to home. The Eagles, Doug Peterson, first Super Bowl in Philadelphia. Eagles history. They built a statue of the man. He wrote a book called Fearless, published in 2018, forwarded by the owner of the Eagles. And just 2 years later, get him out of there. So, as I look at it, Bill Belichick, they've had an incredible love story, a 20-plus year run, him and Robert Kraft. But after that 7-9 season, after Robert Kraft's words, it's become apparent that there's a whole lot of pressure on Bill Belichick to get things done now. So, big bro, Acho, I come to you first, sir. How much pressure is on Bill Belichick to win this year?
Zero, zilch, absolutely none. You got to understand Robert Kraft. And I know Robert Kraft. I've been in meetings with Robert Kraft, negotiating CBAs. I've been up and close with this dude. Robert Kraft loves Tom Brady. Who doesn't? He gave him 6 chips in 20 years. Robert Kraft also understands that when Tom Brady's gone, it's going to take some time to rebuild. So if you're not rebuilding sooner in the draft, I got to get it in my free agency moves. $165 million guaranteed. That's huge. But he's doing that to help Bill Belichick. He understands that it's going to be a while before the Patriots get back to their dominating performances.
Giving them a while. I'm not mad at that. I don't think the leash is as long as you believe, but I understand where you're coming from. Bucky Brooks, talk to me. How much pressure is on Bill Belichick to win in a win-now league?
I mean, there's a lot of pressure. I mean, if you're going to write checks totaling $300 million, yes, you have to win. You have to win right away because of all of the mistakes that they've made in the draft. Like, you like to draft, you want to build your team through the draft because it's economical. You now have the ability to kind of keep the cost down, the production high if you get it right. Well, because they've missed year after year after year in the draft, they've now had to overspend in free agency. And so Kraft wants to make sure that Bill Belichick can take this approach and get it right. Now, I would say that the Patriots have always been at their best when they're picking pros and adding pros to the lineups, and as opposed to adding college guys, because what Belichick, the GM, doesn't do right, Belichick, the head coach, he can make it right by correcting it. And so when I look at this team and I look at the veterans that they've added to the defense, well, now he can go back to playing those snowflake game plans that switch each and every week. When I look at offensively, 2 tight ends coming over, Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, respectively, the wide receivers. Now they can go back to playing power football and stressing the defense with their 12 personnel package. So there's a lot of pressure on Bill Belichick, but I have a sneaking suspicion that he'll find a way to make this right.
Bucky, I hear what you're saying, and I understand where you're coming from. My one disagreement, my one rebuttal, my one response would be this. Tom Brady. Yes, the Patriots have had a bad draft the last few years, but it hasn't mattered. Why? Because of Tom Brady. So now all of a sudden the talk is, well, we've got to figure out the draft and we've got to get it right. It's not about getting it right. You're trying to find ways to replace Tom Brady. That's why you spent $165 million guaranteed to try and replace one man, one player, Tom Brady. And so that's why the leash is a little bit longer than I think we all think, because Bill Belichick and both Robert Kraft understand that it's almost impossible. If you didn't understand before, you should understand now after watching that Super Bowl. It's almost impossible to replace Tom Brady. He's the GOAT, the greatest of all time, going to be the greatest quarterback in history. Tom Brady. It's not about the draft. It's about one man.
Okay, I get it. I don't understand exactly why you have such an accentuated pause between Tom and Brady. People need to start introducing me like that. Emmanuel, Acho. I mean, it does hit a little harder when you give a little pregnant beat in between. But, Sam, let me enter a thought. 2014. Tom Brady's still relatively in his prime, relatively young, if we are cognizant of how long he would go on to play. And Bill Belichick says, you know what? I want to move on from Tom Brady. I want to draft Jimmy Garoppolo. Tom Brady responds, just by taking him to a Super Bowl a couple years later, winning another NFL MVP, and balls. Robert Kraft was like, hey, Belichick, strike one. Okay, 2020, that season ends. Rather, the 2019 season goes into the 20 year. And Tom Brady has to scurry off to the Buccaneers because Bill Belichick and that relationship is so contentious that you can't keep the greatest quarterback of all time on your roster. Strike two. Sam, I don't think that Bill Belichick's leash has gotten longer because of Tom Brady. I actually think that the leash is shorter because of how Bill Belichick mishandled Tom Brady and how Bill Belichick has really been mishandling a whole lot. Bucky Brooks, you agree with me on that one?
No, because here would be the thing. If I'm Bill Belichick, who would you hire that would be better? Who's the better coach out there that can come back?
If you're Robert Kraft. Yep.
Robert Kraft. Who can you bring back that's going to bring you 6 titles? And I would say this, if Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft are arguing over the Tom Brady thing, hey, I had a succession plan in place with Jimmy Garoppolo. I was ready to move forward with Jimmy Garoppolo when Jimmy Garoppolo was in year 3. You made me trade Jimmy Garoppolo away. And we continued on with Tom Brady, and we didn't have a serviceable backup plan to go forward. And so, yes, I can be to blame for my missteps when it comes to the draft, but I attempted to take care of the most important position on the field by drafting 2 quarterbacks, Jimmy Garoppolo and even Jacoby Brissett, to be in the building when we did decide to move on from Tom Brady. You nixed that.
Fellas, I'm going to leave you all with this little conspiracy theory, more of a hypothesis that I have. Robert Kraft, he understands Bill Belichick has won 6 chips. He gets that. Y'all get that. Sam, you said it. Bucky, you said it. I'm cognizant of it. But he also understands Tom Brady walks out the building, walks into another building with the head coach who's never gone to a Super Bowl as a head coach in Bruce Arians, and they instantly win a Super Bowl. So I'm not convinced that Robert Kraft isn't looking at Bill Belichick like, was it you? Or was it Tom? Because you, Bill Belichick, might be replaceable. We'll see. Coming up, LeBron and Steph Curry on the same team? Now that would be wild. I'll tell you if leaving or staying in Golden State would be better for Steph's legacy. Don't go anywhere. Speak for yourself. Let's head to the NBA, where reports say LeBron James was recruiting Steph Curry. During the All-Star break. Now, Steph has 1 year left on his current deal, but Warriors president Bob Myers was not fazed by them rumors, saying, quote, I don't really give those things much credence, or else I would have to get out of the business. 2 of my favorite men in the business are joining me right now. That's Chris Broussard, my guy Slick Rick, some of the best out there. But, guys, I got to tell y'all straight. Staying in Golden State would be the best possible, plausible thing for Steph Curry's legacy because, as I see it, Steph Curry's legacy is already cemented. He don't need to chase rings because he's not in that ring conversation for the greatest of all time. He's a 3-time NBA champion. Not only that, he went to 5 consecutive NBA finals. You got to go back to like the 1950s or 60s to find someone else who has done such a feat, going to 5 straight with the same team, to be exact. You're talking about a 6-time All-NBA player? Steph Curry, just stay in Golden State because every time you change teams, your legacy takes a hit. See, LeBron James, he changed teams, went to Miami. Legacy, it took a hit. The difference was he was able to overcome the hit his legacy took because he won again. You talk about Shaquille O'Neal. When he left L.A. and went to the Heat, his legacy took a hit, but he overcome the hit that legacy took because he won again. Dirk Nowitzki, to me, because I'm from Dallas, he's a top 15 player of all time, primarily because he never left Dallas. 20 years, same team, and now he got a statue up outside the arena. So, Steph Curry, staying in Golden State is the best thing for your legacy because you don't need to go chase rings and no shiny things like so many other dudes. You've already accomplished everything you needed to accomplish, and you did it by the team that brought you in. So, Slick Rick, I'm bringing you in to answer the question for me. What's best for Steph Curry's legacy? Is it leaving or staying with the Warriors?
I agree with all that you said, Acho. I know that's a rarity, but I do. However, staying with Golden State still is the second best thing that he could do.
Talk to me.
No, he should not. He should not leave to chase rings. But staying in Golden State is also not going to get him a ring. And I know how delusional Warriors fans are right now living in the Bay Area. They believe as soon as Klay comes back, oh, we're right back on that championship horse again. And the reality is the dynasty is over. They're not going to get back there again. They had the dynasty when they were paying Steph, in particular, $11 million a year before they had to pay Draymond Green, before they had to pay Klay Thompson. Getting back there is not realistic. And what's going to happen is there's going to be disappointment as a result of the fact that the expectations are so high and they're not going to meet them. But he shouldn't chase rings either. To your point, it's part of his legacy and his brand and his reputation that he is loyal. But there is one place that he could go that would add to his legacy, and it's not about adding rings. It's going back home to Charlotte, North Carolina, and the Charlotte Hornets, and lifting that team the same way that he lifted the Golden State Warriors. That would add to his legacy, and I dare say the people, even in the Bay Area, would not begrudge Steph that move because it would be in keeping with who he is.
Interesting. CB, your thoughts?
Yeah, that was interesting. First of all, Acho, like Rick, look, I agree with what you said. Everything except Dirk being the top 15 player, but that's another conversation for another day.
I'll let that go.
Rick, you had me intrigued, Rick, but Charlotte, here's the problem with going to Charlotte. They're not going to win a championship, right? He wouldn't lead them to a championship.
Right.
They'd be good, but they're not beating Brooklyn, probably not Philadelphia.
Nope.
They're not winning there.
Nope.
So you're right.
Nope.
Golden State's fans probably wouldn't be upset because you're going home. You help MJ's team. You make Charlotte relevant and maybe a contender.
Sing it,
definitely
Broussard.
not winning the East. So why
That's
do
fine.
it then? Why go? If you go back and if they were in a place where you add Steph and you can win a ring, I'm with you.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I can't do it. Now let me say this. He shouldn't go to the Lakers for all the reasons Acho said. Even if he went there and, say, won 2 rings with LeBron, that's not really helping Steph's legacy. He's already viewed as the greatest, in many people's eyes, the greatest small player ever. He's the greatest shooter of all time. He's the architect of the greatest dynasty since the Shaq-Kobe Lakers. And he can't really add to that because 5 rings isn't going to put him ahead of the people that are ahead of him, like Magic and like LeBron and like Larry Bird and guys like that. So he loses more than he gains if he goes to the Lakers. However, I'll throw one caveat, and I still don't know that it makes sense. But what if the Brooklyn Nets run through the league this year? They go through the Eastern playoffs, lose maybe 2 games. They get to the finals and play the Clippers or the Lakers or whoever's out of the West and win in 5 or sweep them. If they look like the Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant, then you will see teams trying to put together a juggernaut that can compete with that team. That's the only way that you could make any sense of Steph going to the Lakers to say, okay, we got to put together something that could beat the Lakers. I think it'd be better getting Dame Lillard because he needs a ring or rings, but he's always said he wouldn't join the super team. So if I'm Steph, I'm saying to LeBron, when LeBron calls, why don't you come to Golden State? People expect you to move around. You come join me.
Hey, CB, I love rapping with y'all. I love rapping with y'all basketball heads because y'all can talk off the cuff. So I'm going to bring up an off-the-cuff conversation. Slick Rick, you purely and thoroughly gave your answer. CB, you thoroughly gave your answer. I was thinking about this. One of the reasons Steph doesn't need to go anywhere is because he's one of the top 5 most influential basketball players in the last 30 years. I look at Michael Jordan. I look at Allen Iverson as far as what he did for the culture of basketball. I look at Shaquille O'Neal. When Shaquille O'Neal left, the true bigs started to leave. We're just now seeing it with a couple guys in the NBA. I look at LeBron James because he is the King James. And then I have Steph Curry. Trae Young wasn't shooting from the logo before Steph Curry. Bron wasn't even shooting from the logo before Steph Curry. Dame Lillard surely wasn't shooting from the logo before Steph Curry. Where do y'all see Steph Curry as far as the most influential or one of the most influential players in the history of the game? CB, I'll go to you first.
I didn't agree with, was it Shaq that said he's the most influential over the last 30 years? I would go with Jordan, clearly. But I think Steph is second for the reasons you said. I was listening for Kobe on your list. We can argue if he's in the top 5, but I would go with Steph second just because, to your point, I mean, we can go to gyms throughout the country now. What are we going to see? Little kids shooting 20-foot shots at 8 and 9 years old. And as you mentioned, all these guys that are shooting these deep threes, it is all because of Steph Curry. Look, you can't say this about many players. Steph Curry changed the game of basketball.
Correct.
He changed the game of basketball. And for all the detractors that want to say Kevin Durant got him rings or whatever they may want to say, you can never argue this guy changed basketball. So I think he's second only to Michael Jordan.
Wow, Slick.
I can't separate Steph from the Warriors. If Steph demonstrated what he did in shooting from range, would that have become a thing if it wasn't part of the Warriors winning championships? In and of itself, shooting from that range. I mean, let's flip it around. Trae Young comes in and he's that first guy doing it with the Atlanta Hawks. Does that suddenly become a thing that Dame Lillard and every other perimeter player wants to be able to do? And then do teams allow them to do that? So I do believe he's influential. I do think he's the best shooter that we've ever seen. But that extending the range, I just can't separate it. I think the Warriors are the most influential team that we've seen in the last 30 years because they've changed the way the game is played. But that has much to do with Draymond Green being a point forward, Klay Thompson being equally adept at shooting from range as Steph. I just can't take that away. They took a small ball to a new level, and Steph was a part of that. Now, you asked me, CB, like, why would he go to Charlotte if he can't win rings there? Well, he can't win rings in Golden State. I think we've established that dynasty is run. If he goes anyplace else to win rings, even if he goes to the Lakers, there's always been this low rumble of whether is Steph really Batman or Robin. He's Batman, but he wasn't necessarily the best team.
Who been rumbling?
On the he wasn't the best player on the Warriors when he had Kevin Durant next to him. So was he real? Like, he's always been seen as this kind of selfless leader. And to me, the most selfless, wholesome, humble act that he could make is to go back to Charlotte and lift that team to relevance that it's never experienced before. Is he going to play for championships or rings? No. But he would do something for Charlotte and for the Hornets that maybe nobody else could do, and nobody would begrudge him that. And that, to me, would add to his legacy. His legacy is he's a great player. He's a better person. What would be greater than making a sacrifice like going back to Charlotte and finishing your career trying to take them up however many notches you could?
I hear you, Slick. I hear you. And we don't got enough time for me to address the Steph Curry being a Robin conversation. That's a whole nother conversation that we were going to divulge in next time I see y'all too. But I know this much. He is the only unanimous MVP in league history. Steph Curry is a dude. And if he was ever a Robin, it's because he wanted to be, not because he had to be. But on to college basketball. Fox Super 6 is giving away more cash for the men's college basketball round of 4 this weekend. Download the Fox Super 6 app and answer 6 questions about the round of 4 for your shot at a $1,000 guaranteed prize. It's completely free to play. And coming up, the Niners say they're not trading Jimmy G, but I'll tell you just how valuable he is. That's next. Speak for yourself. Don't go in. Welcome back to Speak for Yourself. The 49ers, they made a big move to get the 3rd pick in the NFL draft. And now all the attention is on their quarterback situation, as it should be. Head coach Kyle Shanahan said odds are that they will not be trading Jimmy Garoppolo, that's current starter, and they know they can win with him. But if they did trade him, a report says it would take a 1st-round pick for them to even consider listening. Well, my brother Sam Acho is back with me. Sach, always good to see you. But I got to say this. I think that Jimmy Garoppolo is the most valuable player to the San Francisco 49ers this year. I would argue that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be one of the most valuable players the San Francisco 49ers have had on their roster in the last decade this year. And here's why. Nobody cares about an insurance policy until you get into a wreck. And Jimmy Garoppolo is the insurance policy for the San Francisco 49ers. I said this a few days ago, but for those that missed it, lend me your ears for a moment. Patrick Mahomes, NFL MVP a couple years back, he didn't start right away. Alex Smith contributed to the success indirectly of Patrick Mahomes. Tom Brady, greatest quarterback ever play the game, he ain't start right away. Drew Bledsoe helped Tom Brady learn before he had to go in. Lamar Jackson, MVP the year before last. He didn't start right away. Joe Flacco allowed Lamar Jackson to sit for a while. And Aaron Rodgers, the NFL MVP this previous season, he didn't start right away. 48 games he watched and learned from Brett Favre before taking over, and y'all saw just how good he is. So the last 4 MVPs of the NFL didn't start right away. They were able to sit. So I think Jimmy Garoppolo is of the utmost value, not because what he'll do on the field, but what he'll allow the quarterback that the 49ers draft to be able to do in film rooms. And that's of true importance. So, big bro, how valuable is Jimmy Garoppolo to the 49ers?
Well, the question is simple. When you talk about value, the 49ers are talking about who can they get or what can they get for Jimmy Garoppolo. But the problem is this. Jimmy Garoppolo's value has declined, and it declined the moment that San Francisco traded away their 2022 first-round pick, 2023 first-round pick, their first-round pick from this year, and a third-round pick. Every team knows that Jimmy Garoppolo now is replaceable. Why? Because the 49ers are about to replace this man. There's something in business, right? I got my MBA, man. You got your master's degree. Let's teach them for a second. There's something in business called value pricing. That's when you price a product, or in this case, a player, based on what his value is to the customer. That value has dropped. The value is dropped. And I'm not saying Jimmy Garoppolo isn't a dog, isn't a beast, because I believe he is. But when it comes to the perception of another team and what they'd give up for Jimmy G, that value has declined, and it declined at an extremely fast rate.
Sam, I'm not going to get into an intellectual conversation with you because although I can outwit Marcellus Wiley, I cannot outwit you. So I will steer clear of intellectual dialogue, but I will say this. Jimmy Garoppolo, he was traded straight up for a second-round pick. And I think that he was clearly worth that trade. Takes the 49ers to the Super Bowl, albeit they lost in large part because of Jimmy Garoppolo. The defense did their job. They held Patrick Mahomes enough. Jimmy G, he missed a pivotal throw to Emmanuel Sanders. He missed a pivotal second down and short throw. So albeit they lost in large part to Jimmy Garoppolo. Let's come full circle now, Sam. Do you think that Jimmy Garoppolo would be worth a second-round pick if he were to be traded right now?
Absolutely. I think he's absolutely worth a second-round pick and even a first-round pick. Here's the thing. Jimmy Garoppolo is a dog when he's healthy. Last year, he was 3-3. He only played. He was okay, but he missed 10 games. The year before, he was 13-3. Led his team to the championship, right? He's a dog when healthy. But the year before, had an ACL. He was injured. If the Chicago Bears needed a quarterback and Jimmy G was available, I believe they would have given up a first-round pick for Jimmy G. All these teams that need a quarterback, they would have given it up. But now that ship has sailed. Teams are already looking at the draft. They're already filling up their rosters in free agency. And so I think he's definitely worth a second-round pick, but I don't think he's going to be given a second-round pick when it comes to a trade because timing is everything.
Jimmy Garoppolo is absolutely a beast when he's healthy, but the operative word there is when. Because out of 57 plausible games he could start, he's missed 25 of them. That's 44%. I'm no mathematician, but I was kind of smart right then. Coming up, Aaron Rodgers is hosting Jeopardy? I'll answer how I feel about that in the form of a question. Aaron Rodgers has found a second job? The reigning MVP will start a 2-week stint as the guest host of The Bachelor. No, I'm kidding. I'm the only former football player that can guest host The Bachelor. He's hosting Jeopardy on Monday. So I got a Jeopardy question for you all, but y'all know how they do it on the show. They give y'all the answer first, and y'all got to figure out the question, if you will. Y'all just got to figure out the answer. So I'm going to kick it off like this. I'm going to give y'all this one. This receiver caught Aaron Rodgers' first career touchdown pass. Take a beat. Take a beat. The person you're thinking of is probably wrong. Yes, who is our very own Greg Jennings? Way back in 2007, how about that? Greg Jennings caught passes from Brett Favre, then caught passes from Aaron Rodgers. He also caught passes from the likes of Christian Ponder, but that's neither here nor there. So shout out to Greg for being a stud. Shout out to Aaron Rodgers for what he has going on. And I have one final trivia question for you all. This might be the toughest of the day. This might be the toughest thing you get asked all day. And that's very simple. This show is on next. Take a second. It's not undisputed. No. It's not it's not the herd. Yes. The correct answer is what is Fox Bet Live. That's next. I'll see y'all.